Good morning, Howard.
Good morning, Mark. Good morning, everybody.
Thanks for joining us today, Howard. Let's start right at the very top. Your rules, or the NDTG's rules, clearly state that a candidate for a demolition supervisor course and card should have a minimum of 5 years experience. How is it actually possible that an individual with just 1 year has slipped through the net?
Exactly. The rules do clearly state it's 5 years experience. And whilst we have a certain amount of flexibility within the scheme, there are always people that might try and I don't say con the scheme, but try and get through as slightly easier. The NDTG delivers a minimal amount nowadays directly, but we do have approved training providers, and it is their responsibility to check the CVs of the operatives that are applying for these courses. That CV is endorsed by the employer. So again, it's all really a matter of trust. The information that we as the group and the trainers receive is legit.
So what checks are actually in place to actually verify that experience? Because anyone could create a CV that says they've got 20 years experience when in actual fact they've only got 6 months.
Again, it is the direct responsibility of the trainer of that particular course to check the CVs, and if there's any doubt, they actually all end up on my desk if there's any doubt of any of these operatives coming through. We get the odd one that lands on my desk, and I have to make the ultimate decision whether it's a yes or no. And sometimes one particular case that the guy wanted to do the course, he'd been working in Australia for several years, so he'd had the experience before, but he couldn't even get a CV. So we had a long chat about it. I questioned him about his experience, and we allowed that one to go through. But it's still pretty much a hands-on operation here at the NDTG, which is a good thing in a way, that we are small enough to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I realise that the employers have a responsibility here, but I mean, ultimately, the NDTG is the arbiter of all things training related in demolition. Surely the buck stops with the NDTG here, doesn't it?
It does, but we have to rely on the trainers that are delivering these courses. We can't check every single one. We're dealing with not huge numbers, but fairly large numbers of operatives coming through on these courses. And if you took the whole plethora, you're probably talking a couple of thousand a year. No one person here could check every single CV. We've got to rely on the integrity of the trainer, and we do check the trainers. We do audit them. We check the records, etc. And we would sanction a trainer that was not complying with the rules. So we are as tough as we can be in a realistic manner.
Yeah, I mean, my concern with this, and this is really why I picked it up as a story in the first place, is the fact that we're not just talking about a matter of health and safety here. I mean, we're talking about demolition supervisors, and we'll come on to more later. You know, this is potentially a matter of life and death. You wouldn't buy a safety harness that was labelled "almost all of these will save your life." You know, if you're gonna put the kite mark and the standard on a card, that card needs to be 100%, doesn't it?
Yes, and I think the key point of this, though, Mark, what some people are missing, that the training we provide leaves the operative with a red card, a trained operative card. Then they have to do an NVQ within the timescale set. Some of the cards it's 3 years, some of the cards it's 5 years. Just depends which the card is. That NVQ. I spoke to a trainer yesterday. He said it can be up to 1,000 hours of training, of work experience that they're checking on. So the checks and balances do come into it with the NVQ process, and it is very, very robust.
But I mean, just to clarify, as I say, we've heard lots of tales, and unfortunately, you know, I can't verify all of them. But we have had that one guy, I think he's spoken to you, the fact that he's got his supervisor's card after a year. How did that happen?
I don't really want to talk about specific cases, Mark. I don't think that's fair on the individual. If one individual did ring me afterwards, and he was extremely concerned that he may have been the person that people were insinuating against. When I checked into his records, he passed the training course with an exemplary pass mark, and he did have the proper endorsement from his employer. So I couldn't find anything wrong with it, and I reassured him that I would not be taking any action against that particular card. But whether that's the person that's in question, I don't genuinely know. If somebody wants to give me a specific name, I will check in the records, and if there's action to be taken, action will be taken.
Okay, let's pause for a short break. I'm going to roll one of our sponsor ads, and we'll be right back after this.
No worries.
And welcome back. Howard, given that we find ourselves, thankfully, in the midst of a post-pandemic boom, a boom in workloads, are you under increased pressure from members to get their men and women qualified?
We are, yes, definitely. There's a shortage of operatives out there. Doesn't seem to be too bad at the supervisor managers level. Thankfully, most companies have invested at that sort of level of qualification. It's men at the workplace, or operatives at the workplace. Let's be non-sexist if we can. Green card level, DRO card level, etc. They seem to be the ones that are really in short supply. And I think we all know that a lot of companies are using agency labour today. A lot of the agency labour was immigrant labour, which they seem to have just disappeared. They must have all gone home after the Brexit clampdown, I think.
Can you confirm that you have never knowingly issued a card to an operative purely on the say-so of an Nfdc member company?
Me, absolutely, 100%. I would not do that. I've got extremely strong integrity, and we have even taken very serious action against one particular trainer who was not complying with the rules. But again, I'm not at liberty to name anybody, and I don't think that would be correct. But we do have very strong standards. I firmly believe in those. As you all know, I've been in this industry an awful long time, and I do think that the proper training is essential. Hence, I've always supported 100% the Ccdo scheme.
We all know the risks involved with demolition, and that everyone looks out for everyone else. What assurances can you offer to the industry as a whole that there are not dozens of demolition supervisors out there that don't actually possess the requisite experience?
It's difficult to say, Mark, but I cannot possibly in my life see there's dozens. There could be one or two that have possibly slipped through the net. I think that's a possibility in any situation. But as I say, the NVQ process, where they have to qualify the card, is a second safety measure, if you like. The NVQ assessor has to go to site a minimum of 3, normally 4, sometimes even 5 times at supervisor level. And supervisor level is a level 4 NVQ. So it's not an easy process to get through. They have to be competent at their job to get that qualification. And an awful lot of employers, the bigger employers, the tier 1s, are starting to stop the red cards going on site. They are demanding that the operative is qualified through the NVQ process, not only in the Ccdo scheme, but in the CPS plant scheme as well. There's huge numbers there where I get complaints all the time, as I'm sure you can imagine, but members are saying that they've been stopped working, they've got a red card, they feel it's sufficient, but it is the main contractor's ultimate decision whether they want a red card or the blue or appropriate colour that the card should be from the VQ. So,
absolutely. Right, I'm going to take a very quick slurp of a drink, so let's roll another sponsor ad, and I'll be right back after this.
Axoft and Svantec are your high-end partners for noise, vibration, dust and air quality systems, sensors and software. To find out more, visit axoft.co.uk or call 01234 639 550.
Welcome back. Howard, how do you respond to accusations, and these aren't mine, but there are accusations, that training providers are putting cash before competence?
I've offered to look at any one of them directly. And I say we have sanctioned one particular training provider that was, I can't say taking cash for cars. I don't think that was the case, but they weren't complying with our rules. Cash for cards, I don't genuinely think that happens within the demolition training sector. I have heard it in other sectors, and we get notifications all the time from Citb where training centres have been suspended, especially for the touchscreen section. If that happens, we have to recall some of our cards, because if an operative has taken the touchscreen test at a centre that's not compliant, we are then required to take additional action. So we are governed by the Citb, and they come in here quite regularly and audit the process that we've got in place.
Another criticism that I seem to hear quite a lot is that classroom-based training is no substitute for on-site training. What do you think on that?
Mark, I would love to do all training site-based, but the sites just don't allow. Yeah, the main contractors won't allow trainees on site. Even we've gone to the situation now where we've had to introduce an apprentice card, because the apprentice scheme is very prevalent in the industry now. The main contractors don't particularly want the training carried out on site, so we've had to go to classroom-based training. Our hot works course still has an element of practical work, which we do out in the yard area, but it would be much nicer to carry out the training on site. It's just it just doesn't meet the modern way of working, I'm afraid.
It seems crazy that as you say, the tier ones and other contractors are asking for on-site experience and on-site training, but they won't actually allow it to take place on their own sites, will they? It's
totally ironic, Mark. It really is. You know, we try. I think our industry is probably one of the best for training. I don't want to slag any other system off, but the current CSCS system, if you do an SMSTS course and have got an employer's endorsement, you can get a manager's card just like that. It's just there's no training, there's no proper training course that's industry specific. All of our training is industry specific. We get criticised for the cost of the courses, but the supervisor and manager courses are tailored to mirror the SMSTS and the triple STS one. We deliver those courses, but then the main contractor is still insisting that they carry out the bloody triple STS or the SMSTS on top of it. So it's a double whammy for employers when we know, Build UK know, and it's endorsed by Build UK, that our system is compliant.
We've had a couple of comments in there, no questions as yet, so I'll keep rolling with my questions for the time being.
Yeah, then the comments they're coming up too quick to read, Mark. I'm not that quick anymore.
Okay, well, you've just had a couple that are just literally "Good morning, Howard," so
Yeah.
you're not missing a huge amount. Going back to the demolition supervisor card, setting aside all the potential health and safety implications, if someone with such limited experience managed to get through the qualification, is that qualification just not too easy?
I don't think the qualification, as I say, the one that I looked into where the guy was concerned, I checked the course, I checked all the trainer records. The trainer that trained him actually is one of our better trainers, one of our best trainers, and the pass mark on the paper was 83%, which is very, very good. So I do believe that our training is very thorough. When we do training here in Hemel, I quite often pop into the course just to say hello to the guys. It's a good opportunity for me to get feedback on how the industry is from their perspective. I still do the occasional federation audit on site, again talking to managers, etc. So I am very much in touch with what's going on, and I do firmly believe that our courses are robust and thorough enough to ensure that somebody can deliver their supervisory skills correctly. You can't be, I know you can't beat experience, and you know, we can all sympathise with that. But experience is not everything. You can have years and years of experience of doing something wrong. The training is essential to make sure that we teach people the correct way and the legal way that certain things should be carried out.
But the flip side of that, I guess, is the fact that you've potentially got people on site with 5, 10, 15 years experience being told what to do by somebody with considerably less, but they've got a piece of plastic that allows them to do so. That
again, Mark, is something I've often criticised with the current CSCS system. We've all had it as you know, I haven't been contracting now for like 18 years. Since I've been with the Fed, but back in those days, you get somebody, an SMSTS black carded manager come on site, absolutely no experience at all of demolition, saying to my supervisors at the time, "You're doing that wrong." That's why I'm so passionate about having our industry card that clearly demonstrates those people have had the proper training, the experience. I appreciate it's under question today, and we will be a little bit more thorough for a while and double check all of these, but experience is not the be all and end all. You need training, you need the skills, you need the experience. It's a combination of everything to make a very good supervisor or manager level person.
I was just about to take a break, but I think that question is worth addressing. Are all trainers carrying out demolition courses from the demolition industry?
100%, yes. All of our trainers have to be approved trainers. They have to have some demolition experience. They all have to have a trainer's card. We check their CVs. We check their work experience. We've got certain company training providers. If they've got a trainer within that company, we will check that out thoroughly. We take the training providers' endorsement as well. We've got to take their recommendations into consideration when we're looking at the specific trainers. Sadly, it's getting harder and harder to get people into the training industry. They just don't want to do it. It's, we all know Roy Brown. I love Roy Brown, but he's been telling me he's going to be retiring many more years than I have been talking about retirement. And he will be sadly lost when he does retire. But getting new people in is extremely difficult. And if there's anybody listening out there that wants to take up their career and further into training, please drop me a line. You'll bite your hand off almost.
I can't believe you're using this show as an advert, but well done. We're going to take a very quick break and we'll be right back after this.
The Miller GT series heralds a new era of unrivaled power and cutting-edge intelligent coupler technology, increasing job site safety, machine versatility and productivity. It's the added versatility that you need at the value you can afford. To find out more, visit millergroundbreaking.com.
I realise I'm in danger of repeating myself here, but although the focus of this conversation has been basically on the supervisor card so far, we have seen claims that there are individuals holding a black Ccdo manager's card, the most senior card available under the Ccdo scheme, with less than 5 years experience. Same question again, and to put it bluntly, how has that been allowed to happen?
It shouldn't have happened. If again, it is a bit repetitive. If there is a specific case, I will look into it. But the manager's course is again extremely thorough, and I failed to see how anybody could have got through without any necessary experience. Ideally we'd like to see them progress through the industry, through the card schemes, but we still do allow direct entry with 5 years experience, because there's still lots of people out there have been doing supervisory or management work in the industry. They've never got a card for one reason or another. Sadly, a lot of those are the self-employed sector who they find the cost a bit prohibitive, and they haven't got they can't access the Citb funding, which is available to the companies.
Questions just come in there. I think that's coming in from LinkedIn. CSC, I realise you're not a spokesperson for CSCS, but CSCS are no more than a mass registration. Why aren't they more robustly challenged when there are policies that are so out of tune? Care to comment on that one?
I think the comment is that's one of the specific reasons why we developed the Ccdo scheme. Ccdo is what's called a partner card under CSCS. So we have to meet all of CSCS and the CLC, the Construction Learning Council, requirements to deliver a card, but we are in control of the course that we deliver. Every course that we deliver has to also be checked by Citb. We're not just allowed to say we're going to do X, Y, or Z. We have to submit that to Citb for checking. So we've got a very robust system of checking what we're doing. I don't want to be too negative about CSCS, but I don't feel that they've got the same. They certainly haven't got the same checks and balances that we've got at our supervisor or manager level card scheme. And really, nothing at all at the lower level. They've got the green operative level, and that's about it. You don't get any occupational specific cards that we have in the demolition sector. The scaffolding sector's got very similar. Drilling and sawing have got similar. So it's the partner card schemes, I personally feel, are far more robust and fit for purpose than the general, very generic CSCS schemes.
It's funny we should come to that, because my next question that I've got noted down here is, when we did our survey into demolition supervisors, you responded on Facebook, and I won't quote you exactly, but it was something along the lines of, instead of criticising the CCDO scheme, why not look at CSCS, no pre-entry criteria, triple STS course, and so on down the line. I think you've already made your point clear there, but am I right in thinking that you believe the CCDO scheme is superior, or at least more appropriate to the demolition industry?
I firmly believe, Mark, it's superior by a long way. We were one of the first card schemes to go smart. We endorsed smart technology. Cost the training group an awful lot of money to get that technology in place, but that was essential. Yeah, CSCS are only just catching up. CPCS have only just started to catch up with us. We are actually on the last band of cards, which are the non-smart cards, what everybody in the industry calls dumb cards. By this time next year, they will all have expired, and everybody in the industry who has got a CCDO card will have, by renewal process, the new smart cards, which will be read by they're readable on the apps. I actively encourage everybody to add training sections to their cards. Once you do a training course through the NDTG, it is put on electronically onto the card. We don't put all of the information on the back of the card. We want people to use the tech and use there's the Go Smart app. There's a new system coming in next year from CSCS, a universal card reader. So there's no excuse anymore that nobody can see what training somebody's done. We're also in negotiation with Reference Point, the card supplier, to get a facility to add CPD points, because at managers level and supervisor level, I believe it's essential that they continue their training through CPD, through short-term courses, etc. So we're looking at a facility to add that into our card schedule. I genuinely 100% feel that we are progressive with the right card for the industry, and I really don't want to hear other people using inferior cards on a demolition contract. And I think you know, it was me personally that was instrumental in bringing in the requirement that every card under the CCDO scheme has to have asbestos awareness. I just personally felt that was so essential in our industry. We made it, and the board backed me, it's mandatory in every single one of our cards that you have to have asbestos awareness training.
We've had a question in there from somebody on LinkedIn. I can't see their name actually. If the course is as robust as described with NVQ, etc., what is the requirement for a touchscreen test? I'm not even sure what that means, to be honest.
The touchscreen test is the health, safety, and the environment test. That we can't get away from that. To be really honest with everybody, I don't feel we need it. But the CSCS partner card scheme rules demand that everybody has to do what is commonly known as a touchscreen test, or the health, safety, and the environment test. We've absolutely got no say in that whatsoever.
Obviously can't ask you to comment on individual cases, but we've had one there. William Cameron, done my D92 years ago through the Nfdc, still not on my card as they never paid for it. I will leave you to worry about that afterwards.
Mark, I could answer. This is another thing that's very, very confusing. The CCDO card scheme means Certificate of Competence for Demolition Operatives. It is demolition site operatives. I don't like to say manual workers, but the guys actually working on site. CPCS is nothing to do with us. We don't manage that or run it. They deliver the plant sector cards. The as that guy said there, the D90 is a CPCS card scheme. We may well have initiated the course for that particular person, and there's got to be something missing. Again, if he wants to email me directly, I will willingly look into it for him. But We are on the management committee of CPCS, but we don't have direct control of that.
Fair enough. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about the cost of a CCDO card. Many suggest it's too expensive, although I think most people think everything's too expensive, but particularly for self-employed workers to afford. But there's also been a suggestion that the cost of the CCDO card is putting off demolition contractors, and they're now subbing out work to companies and individuals who, guess what, are holding CSCS cards. Has the CCDO card scheme priced itself out of the market?
It's something I constantly look at, Mark, because it is a question that comes up almost at every regional meeting now. The cost of, everybody's looking at costs. And you heard me moaning earlier about the cost of the fuel during the fuel crisis. I really did have a whinge about that. But the self-employed, I've personally raised this several times with Citb. They have got no system within their current grant process to allow for self-employed people to get the grant back, which is really, really disappointing. They have got a group called the the Parity system, where they want all card training to be on an equal basis and equally funded. Now that could take, through the Citb, that could easily take a year to get in place. But I've got to say, Nfdc members, 2 years running, we gave them a £1,000 voucher to encourage training. I will be meeting with the president in a couple of weeks' time, and it's our 80th tomorrow, but I don't think we want to talk about card schemes there, much as I might like to. I don't think the president will want to, but we will be looking at costs. I've spoken to the trainers out there, the individual training providers, so that their cost parameter is the numbers. You can't get the numbers in the scheme. We have a limit of 10 operatives per session in the classroom. That is allowed to stretch to an absolute maximum of 12 in exceptional circumstances. But most trainers, they're training 6 to 8 guys at a time at the moment. The industry missed an opportunity during the COVID to get men trained. That's when we should have been doing it, when work was quiet, when everybody had the time. Now all I get is, we haven't got time for training, we're too busy, and etc. And it needs a resolving. We have offered to bring in line some Saturday courses. I spoke to a company and I said, look, if you get enough men on site, probably a minimum of 6, we'll come to site on a Saturday morning and train you guys and get them certificated. We're doing as much as we possibly can to encourage industry to catch up on this skill shortage.
Right, we're going to take our final break, and then we'll be back with the final round of questions right after this. We've received several questions via email because obviously people knew you were coming on the show.
There's a question up on the screen, Mark. Would you mind if I just answer that one?
Yeah, please feel free.
Yeah, Ian and I, who's the training officer for the NDTG, we actually had a meeting with the health and safety 2 weeks ago now. We had 21 senior inspectors online for a full day session explaining to them how the card scheme works, the values of the card scheme. And I think they will be going away and checking a few of these sites to make sure that the demolition industry, not just Federation members, but the industry in general, are using the correct card for the job. And it's something we've been promoting for a long while now, a marketing campaign, the right card for the job. So look out, guys. I think the HSE inspectors, we've only told them what's been public for a long while, but they are now fully aware of the Ccdo card scheme.
I'm going to come back to that one in just a second, actually,
Yeah,
because that ties to one of the other questions we've got. But one of the ones that we've had in from me on email, given the NDTG's obvious ties with the NFDC in that they share an office, fairly public knowledge, I guess, and the fact that the NDTG is not therefore independent, how does it have exclusive rights to issuing demolition cards? And is that right?
It's a good question. The NDTG is an independent company. I don't suppose, in all honesty, Mark, nobody else wants it. It's not a money maker. It's not a cash cow or anything. It's bloody hard work. We've got a team of 4 now. Some of them are part time because the training, as I say, diminished during the COVID period, and it does need an awful lot of work into it. We get minimal grant from the Citb. The training providers, we have to make sure that they're happy. Ian often has training sessions where the training providers get together and normally have a bit of a moan and a whinge about something, but it's all constructive. We have to turn these things around. I don't think there's many sectors out. To me, it's we are the right people to manage it, even with the tie-in with the Nfdc, because that gives me and the board the opportunity to give the feedback directly from industry to what the training schemes should be and what they're covering. We've just recently released the new exclusion zone document. Now that's got to be dovetailed into the training courses that we're providing. And I checked yesterday, one of the question packs is not quite right now, so we're going to be looking at that in the next day or so. Without that industry tie-up, I don't think a card scheme would work. But
it's also been suggested that profits, I guess, from the NDTG are donated in one way or another to the Nfdc. Can you confirm that that's the case? And does that not mean that the NDTG members are effectively helping to fund a trade association that, for one reason or another, they're unable to join?
No, all profits from the NDTG go back into the NDTG. The accounts and Companies House, anybody can go and look at those. They're quite they're very public, as they should be. The Nfdc does make a charge to the NDTG for use of the office. We've got an office space here. Every charge that's made is legitimate and fully accountable. So it's certainly not creaming off any profits from that industry, from that sector, from that side. Sorry.
But what about things like sort of sponsoring NFDC events and that kind of thing? Is there any of that?
There is some. I think there's advantages to it. The NDTG put some money into certain events that we do, but they are there. They have a stand. They will have displays, etc. They always attend with me when we do the IDE events. They come onto the IDE stands and take advantage of the federation's relationship with the IDE. So every company has to do a certain amount of marketing, and the limited amount of sponsorship that they do put across, I think, is fully justified.
But I think you can understand people's concern. There are companies out there, very good, very well qualified, very experienced demolition companies that aren't allowed to join the Nfdc for one reason or another, and yet they are at least partly funding Nfdc events. That doesn't sit well, does it? If they're not members of the Nfdc, I can see that concern, but they are. I think what you're referring to is companies that are members of the NDTG, and I think if we were really honest with them, most of them join the NDTG because they get a discounted rate for the training. I don't know as if they are unduly concerned. If they are, I'm prepared to look at it, and I can take it back to the board. But I really genuinely don't feel that we're going too far with the amount of sponsorship that the NDTG puts across to the NFDC functions. I had a question in here from Nigel Williams. Good morning, Nigel. Any thoughts on previous idea? I don't know if you're aware of this, but Nigel came up with this idea that he put on his podcast about a year ago, this idea of employees actually earning credit. So, as they progress through the various card schemes, they gradually earn a credit to make it more affordable as they progress. Is that something you'd be willing to explore? I'd be willing to explore it. I didn't see it before, so it's a new one on me. That's a bit of a the problem I've got, Mark. The NVQ system is probably the most expensive part of the card scheme. The NVQs are again managed completely independently. The NDTG has input,
but we don't have direct input and we don't have control over the NVQ process. Up to a recent session that Citb held with a group of employers from the industry, and it was quite they had a remit where it had to be employers from all areas of the UK. They have changed the NVQ parameters a little bit, the units within the NVQ. Sadly, they don't all flow on anymore. You know, when we first were involved directly, we ensured that the units you got at say top man level were transferable to supervisor level. In their infinite wisdom, they have made them completely separate NVQ. So that is I don't think it's quite such a good move from Citb. There's little I can directly do about that one.
Okay, we've had a couple of questions in from Mick Norton. The first is, how does Howard feel about the CPCS D90 card for novices, experienced candidates, knowing that the CPCS scheme does not have any quality assured training for their wide range of industry equipment? And another breath, CPCS deregulated formal training in 2008. Your thoughts on that?
Again, see, I don't want to hide behind it. CPCS are not directly involved with it. I am on the board, on the management committee of CPCS. Those of you that know the industry, they know they have got a very strong chairman who's got some very strong views. I've quite often complained about training within the CPCS scheme, and the Piling Association are very much the same. The Pilers have introduced a new training system using the simulator process for a level 1 qualification. Don't think they've actually got it off the ground yet, with because NOCN now own CPCS. I don't think it's actually got off the ground, but it's something we're really interested in, because as a lot of you will know, we invested an awful lot of money in the plant simulator. We were directly rejected by CPCS as a training tool. They would not allow it at all. So despite the investment that we made in a tool that could have been used to train operatives up off-site, give them some basic skills, that the whole plan was to get them to do basic skills on the simulator and then do mentored training on-site on a segregated area, completely thrown out of the water. And it's disappointing. You know, the NDTG Ccdo scheme is about training, and it is about gaining further skills to build up through the NVQ process. Sadly, CPCS is all about assessment.
That seems absolutely ludicrous not to accept the plant simulator, given the fact that when you look at the plant hire industry, you know, the likes of Flannery and Lynch and people like that, they are using that, and Plant Force as well. They're using that extensively.
Well, Flannery were at the CN Awards last night, yesterday, and they got an award for their training regime. You know, they are really pushing the simulator, but it is not recognised by CPCS. We've pushed it as much as we can here. But without the recognition, it's got very poor take-up, unfortunately.
We've had another question there, another one from Mick actually. Are the Nfdc likely to support the Citb's latest survey on plant operator standards and the most important parity of grant for third-party organisations such as the Nfdc? Absolutely,
100% I'm behind that. I believe that the grant should be the same for any training and assessment, across the plant sector. And even across ours, we were talking earlier about the grant that's available. The CPCS currently have quite a high grant value paid back. When you compare that to what we get for, say, a top man assessment, it's negligible. And I think that all training schemes should be given the same rates, we're all paying the same fee into the Citb. And it's time that there was parity across the industry. So completely 100% agree with that.
Another one here from Michael Saunders. Some of us at my age still work. Do you think there should be an NVQ at his age? I'm not sure what his age is, but he has no intention of retiring. So my guess is he's already past retirement age. Should there be a top-up NVQ, do you think?
Should I have to? I don't know whether he's asking whether you have to. You have to do an NVQ. The grandfather rights, as it was commonly known, to get the card was withdrawn some time ago now, and you cannot get a full card without completing an NVQ. Once you've done an NVQ, you don't have to top it up. It's there for life, so it's a one-off. As I mentioned earlier, I would like to see CPD's points added to the card. So rather than having to do an NVQ, you can show your further education as such by CPD. Yeah, and even attending some of your seminars could be quite, some of them are very educational. They could be CPD awarded. I'm not sure if that quite answers Mike. I'm happy to take it further if he wants to. But
what I can tell you is he's 70. We did manage to. It's about time he's hung his boots up anyway. I guess it's one of those things. Demolition gets in your blood, doesn't it? It does. It's hard to walk away.
I'll be 66 this year, and then the board has finally allowed me to go to a 4-day week next year. But I'm just slightly concerned that will end up as a 5 days in 4. I'm already doing 6 in 5. So.
Now, I've got a question, and I did see William Crooks was actually in the chat earlier. I'm not sure if he's still here. But going back to this disparity between CCDO and CSCS, the president's own company was involved in a partial building collapse fairly recently down in Wales. And it transpired, and he was very forthright about it, the fact that they were using a subcontracted team that were predominantly CSCS qualified. My first question, I guess, is why was that the case? And I guess that's probably a question more for William to answer himself. But my second is this. This was obviously a site that was unlikely to be audited under the Nfdc's audit scheme. So does it not devalue or possibly even render meaningless the site audit scheme if Nfdc members are doing one thing on sites that will be audited and quite another on sites that won't be audited?
It's a good point, and the Nfdc audit, I'm not sure if you're aware, it has been split into 2 sections now. We allow members to do the SSIP, which is the health and safety, the paperwork side of it is all done online now, exactly the same as every other system of accreditation of CHAS, etc. But we still do the site audit. We'd love to make it unannounced. But what we've found that is almost impossible because we just don't know where the sites are, and we can't send out an auditor. I've actually agreed to do one in Portsmouth on Monday. You couldn't send an auditor to Portsmouth just on the off chance that there might be a contractor working down there. So the demolition contractors have to tell us, and they are required to give us a 2-week window of opportunity to go and visit that site unannounced. So we do as much as we possibly can, and all of our auditors are required as part of the audit process to check all of the cards on site. They have to use the GoSmart app. I say I'll be going Monday. I will have to use the GoSmart app. I'm not the best on tech, but I managed to make that one work. And we are checking as thoroughly and as best we can. And I've got to look at the other side of the industry. What other industry actually does that? There's no other trade association other than ARCA, and that's only because it's a requirement really of the asbestos regulations that are auditing their members' sites.
But there's that famous story that the Queen, God bless her, believes that everywhere smells of paint. because before she gets anywhere, somebody's been out and given a lick of paint. As a journalist, I get invited to demolition sites on a fairly regular basis. I don't see bad ones. There's a very good reason for that. I only get invited to the good ones, and unfortunately, I guess that's exactly the same with the audit, isn't it?
In all fairness, it is, Mark. Yeah. They know we're coming. They know they've got a 2-week window of opportunity, and that they may be a certain amount of window dressing, but. Every site that I've personally checked, and I've looked at some from the very, I won't say the bottom end, but the members of the federation with the minimal turnover up to the real tier 1s almost of the federation members, and I haven't really seen anything that's been alarming. There's always room for improvement. I still personally check every single audit that the auditors do. They have to come across my desk, and I have to look at those at each one. If I see anything within the audit that the auditor puts comments, he takes photographs, etc., or he or she takes photographs, and I check all of those myself. If there's any doubt, I've got 3 options. I can pass somebody, which is called compliant. I can put somebody on hold, which means they've got a minor discretion, or I can fail it. I don't like to fail members, but I have done in the past because there's been serious breaches. If there's an on hold section, that may be a simple matter of something that's out of date or something, and quite often on site they don't always have the most up-to-date certification. So I'll follow that up. It may be that may be a letter, it may be an email, it may even be a phone call for me directly to the governor and say, "Oi, what's going on?" So I do believe it is a robust system, and again, it is fit for purpose as best we can possibly manage in what is a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, we've just had we've had a couple of comments. I'll leave the other one to the end. But Mick Norton again, if CPCS refused the NFDC the opportunity to use a very expensive simulator, nothing short of disgraceful. Mr. Gamble, the chair, and his committee are completely out of touch and doing the demolition sector a great disservice. I won't ask you to comment on whether they're doing the demolition industry a great disservice, but I think that is the belief. I mean, you look at places like Western College now, it's basically built around plant simulators because that is very much indicative of the way the industry is now.
It was extremely disappointing for us, Mark. We developed the program and we bought the simulator alone was like £40,000, and the software program is bespoke demolition. So I won't give you the figure, but I'm sure you can imagine how much that cost. It was not a cheap package at all. We genuinely thought that it was the right thing for industry. I know you know Richard Dolman very well. He actually bought our old one when we upgraded the simulator, and he's using it to train his men directly on prior to putting them on site. But he can't get a qualification for it. There should be some sort of acceptance that somebody has done minimal. I know it's minimal training, but at least they have done some foundation training before they're put on site, and they've got you can if you watch somebody using the simulator, you can bloody quickly see whether they've got any acumen for driving a machine or not, but just through the way that they use the controls. Everybody new to it jumps on, and it's like jumping in the car for the first time. You let the clutch up and you stalled it first time. But there are some guys and girls who really pick that up very, very quickly, and they are the ones that you want to be pushing through the industry, but we just can't, I'm afraid.
I think your approach to that is absolutely right, because I remember somebody saying to me when I first saw the NFDC's original simulator that his concern was it's like a game, and if you do something wrong, it's game over. Press refresh and start again. Whereas out on site, you don't get that opportunity. But as you say, from a training point of view, it does give somebody an opportunity to look over their shoulder and think they've got it, or they quite clearly haven't. Even if there's like an interim qualification on the way to a proper qualification, that just seems to make perfect sense to me.
That's right. Yeah, we would fully accept that it's not a ticket to go and work on site and a free for all. It is a foundation. It would be a foundation course, and it should be then that operator who's done the foundation course is put in a segregated area. They could be munching up concrete or breaking up concrete within a very, very secluded area and mentor. They don't need to have somebody sitting in the cab nowadays. With tech, they could put, we could put like you said before, we could put the earbuds in and they could be talking to the supervisor at a very, very safe distance and not be at risk to anybody, possibly slight risk to themselves. But once they've done that foundation training, they would be aware of all of the risks for the machine. So I firmly, absolutely 100% believe that foundation training on a simulator is the right way. We can't do it for demolition site operatives. It just doesn't work. We've looked at virtual reality with the Hire Association. It just doesn't quite work. I don't think we're quite there with virtual reality simulation at the moment.
Too many variables on that, I would think. But I think this reluctance to accept simulators is overlooking the fact that there is the ultimate safety net, and that ultimate safety net is that no demolition contractor is going to throw the keys to £1 million high ridge excavator at somebody that's wet behind their ears and can barely tie their shoelaces. It just doesn't make any sense at all, does it?
Yeah, one overzealous operator managed to turn this on screen, turn the simulator over. And it was an absolute bloody nightmare. We had to reboot the whole system because it went to default mode and protected itself. The seat, because the seat is reactive on the simulator, was all at a skew with angle. We really had an issue with that, but it was a skilled operator, and he went to the extreme limits to try and to turn it over, and he succeeded. So it is pretty realistic.
Yeah, I must admit, I've had a play with a few of them. I've been on the Nfdc's original one, but I've also driven dozers and things like that, and they are remarkably real. You know, within 30 seconds, as far as you're concerned, you're driving a proper machine.
Yeah, and I generally think, Mark, also that the way the industry's growing and changing. I know CAT have got simulators already, and these remote operators. I don't think it'll be long before you'll be working a simulator in a remote position, but that simulator is actually controlling the real machine out on site, and that would add such a safety margin, especially on the super high region. The problem would be that the operators might take more risk with the machine as they're not in the cab. You know, I think they'd be professional about it, but that would be something there. You know, the Americans can fly these bloody drones from the States or somewhere over in God knows wherever they're fighting, but thousands of miles away, so it can be done.
Yeah,
well, I mean, would give them that little bit of feedback as well.
I've driven a CAT D10 dozer that was in Arizona, and I was sat in Birmingham, and I'm in the Birmingham in the UK, not the one in Alabama. So you know that technology exists. Someone who's just suggested training guys in a quarry for 6 months. I understand the thought process behind that, but and while you know it is remote and they're out of harm's way, it would be very, very difficult to simulate real demolition. A real demolition environment in that circumstance, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and not many demolition contractors own quarries, I'm afraid. You know, the Nfdc and the NDTG certainly don't own a quarry, and I think we're talking about a huge investment there. You know, we had Birch & Newton, but you know, thankfully it's come back online. The Citb deal there fell through to sell that, but the demolition section there was very, very limited. The training that they provided.
Yeah, it still feels like a huge loss. I mean, it was a fantastic facility and had been for many, many years. I've spent a lot of time up there, and I just think it was such a wasted opportunity. It really was.
I completely agree. And people complain about the Citb, and I've had a little bit of a moan about them, but where would we be without them? I think we'd be a lot worse off without the Citb. At least they have pushed training through the funding support they've given. It's almost like a redistribution of wealth, isn't it? If sadly the bigger companies know how to work the system, and they do get their maximum returns. You know, we as the training group here, we get the same training officer grant as NDTG Scotland, but we're covering 120 odd members, whereas NDTG Scotland is probably covering 40 members. So there's parity in the rate, which I'm not complaining about, but perhaps there should be a sliding scale as well.
We're getting very close to the end now, Howard, and I'm sure you've got much better things to be doing with your day. But a couple of things. I know it says CEO on your business card, but I'm not naive enough to believe that you personally vet every competence card or that you visit every site of every member. Given all that we've said about training and experience and all that kind of thing, where does the buck stop on all this? And ultimately, you're at the very top, but you have presidents and chairmen and what have you below. Is a 2-year term of office for the head of the NDTG or the NFDC actually enough to make any changes that they see fit to make?
That's a good question. Probably not to make changes, no. But they don't just disappear. You know, in the NFDC we have the HLVP position, honorary line vice president position. So they do remain on the board. So they have got very strong input, and I think the federation, that's one of the strengths of the federation, that the experience is passed on. To become the president of the NFDC is a 4-year pre-process. You have to be a second vice president. Each one of those is 2 years. So they are well versed with what's going on. It's not as though they're coming into it cold. I think really that like you said, the buck does ultimately stop with me, but I'm grateful that I've got a board behind me to look at what's going on, and you know, you need to share ideas sometimes. You know, it's a difficult answer, Mark. I don't think I can really give you a direct answer to that one.
I guess the flip side of that, and I'm kind of battling my own question here to a degree, is I've got a huge amount of respect for some of the HLVPs that you've got backing you up there. But is there not a concern that you end up with the same thought processes and the same kind of fixed mentality because you've got people? I've not got the list of HLVPs in front of me, but certainly people that were president 10, 12, 14 years ago, and possibly even longer ago than that. They are still they still very vocal. They have a lot of say. And if you're drawing that experience from when you were president 14 years ago, or possibly even more, is that necessarily relevant? Do you think?
It's relevant. We started off the discussion really with experience. You can't beat experience, and it is a real blessing for me to be able to go back to some of the senior guys and back things off, back ideas off. But I also endorse the new chairman coming through. We need new blood. We need new ideas in the industry. And some of the guys coming through are really, really good. And you've got to get this balance, haven't you, of experience, skills, knowledge, etc. And I think we're about there. I don't think the mould is broken. There's always room for improvement with everything. We've got a pretty strong team at the moment. I don't know if you've heard that we're really looking at the climate change side from the Nfdc as well at the moment. That's really high on the agenda. And I won't say we're ahead of the game, but we know COP26 is coming up at the end of this month. There could be some game changers for the industry, and we're trying to keep abreast of that. And I've got a very strong team looking at that as well. So we've got skills, we've got experience, we've got knowledge, and we've got some forward-thinking guys as well. So I think we've got a really good, strong mix within Fed.
I was trying to work out how I was going to round this all off, and didn't come up with much. But I'm going to leave it to Mick Norton. I would like to thank Howard for a very honest appraisal of the NFDC current situation and his responses to the questions posed on Mark's podcast. Refreshing to see a construction organisation live and debating safety critical issues on training and testing. I couldn't have put that better myself.
Thank you, Mick. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Howard, you and I we have history. Good and bad, we have history. And I will say, regardless of all of that, it takes some balls to come on to it. And bear in mind, not just me, we're broadcasting to a live audience that could have asked you anything. And the very fact that you've given up your time and you've come along and taken all of that on the chin and responded very, very well, I have to say, I would say hats off, but I can't because I've got my headphones on. I have to say hats off.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, and I'd always be welcome. If there's anything that you really think is important, don't hesitate to call me. I don't hide behind a bushel. I've always been a very honest person. I will give you my opinion. Might upset some people sometimes, but I've always tried to do what's right
to my world
about my career.
That's actually on my CV. But no, I do think it is admirable. And well, I mean, as I said to you previously on an email, I'm doing this 5 days a week. The cyber doors are open. If you've got something you want to shout about, even if it's at me, the door is open. You feel free to join us anytime you like.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time today, Howard, and have a great day.
Thank you. See you all.
That will do us. I'm going to roll the outro and then I'm going to go. But before I do, I'm going to say the same thing I say every single day. Stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. And thanks for watching.